Hello, everybody. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just nice. Okay. So it begins. The title of today's episode is. It could be a repeat title. I think I've spoken about it again before, but I think I'll call it something else. Let me see. Nature's Pillars of Civilization. There we go. So, dear listeners, wherever you are, if you're tuning in or not, I don't know. This world's pretty big, and I'm a very tiny part of it. Everybody's a tiny part of this universe. So I don't know who's tuning in, but if you are in this moment, in this live stream, you are like one of my closest, how can I tell you? Like, I am going to share like my actual views on things. And what that means is that from the age of 18 to 24, life was teaching me that I wasn't me. I wasn't the idea I had. So in this life, once I reached a certain state of self-awareness, I began to notice subtle karmic influences in the intentions the idea of myself had for the day. You see, look at the picture I've put for this talk on this live stream. The guy running to the mouth of the dragon. For me, that is a human being through the greatest possibility of their knowledge marching into the unknown towards a universally intelligent and integrative path. You see, what I realized in life is that we are all in some, this might not be a good analogy, but we're in like some fruit mixer. Very fascinating. Science tells you that energy cannot be created or destroyed. And so religion tells you God cannot be created or destroyed. And I'm like, wow, these two classifications have been at war over truth without realizing that through certain angles of perception of their nomenclature, they are saying the same thing. And so I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, everything's the same, unity. Like, I'm not one of those people who gets a tattoo of the word unity. I can tell you that I have learned that when I have desired too much order from life, chaos has come to me. When I have desired too much chaos, order has come to me. But then I realized it was like a sine wave. It was like probably not a sine wave, but it was as if like a kind of curving up and down, kind of growing kind of wave. So what I meant is that when my ego played its karmic game, and what I mean by that is when I thought I was a certain character. So let me tell you what the ego is. The ego is you being convinced by the image of yourself in your own world, and so distracted by it that you're not in the real world. That's anger. Anger is people who are anger. They make irrational decisions because they think slow. The reason they think slow is that anger is not in the present moment. I've spoken to people, different kinds of people, and the way they've gotten angry, I can tell if it's based on the current present moment, like literally what was happening in that situation, or if it was based on a moment in their past that situation kind of like ignited, reignited. What that means is the person had a traumatic experience in the past, something happens now that reminds him of that experience, he freaks out. So that's that's pretty much psychoanalysis for you, you know? Doesn't go beyond that frame. But I'm telling you this, that I realized something very important. So, and the way I reached it, I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating for people to hear this. Okay, so imagine me a couple years ago, Mr. Within. You know, a couple years ago, like some kid who suddenly gets this idea, like I went through a phase where I had so many problems in my life that for a second I was like, oh my God, this is too much. Do you know, I overloaded. I was overwhelmed. Yeah, this is the best way of saying it. I was overwhelmed by my experience in my waking life early on. And because I was overwhelmed, I was put in a confusion of not incapability. It's like I wasn't in this confusion because I was incapable. It was because life seemed to be going at a speed that I naturally, my mind did not consider time in that way. Do you see? And I've noticed the moment you for a second they say, you know, what do they say? They say time flies when you're having fun. Well, guess what? Time flies also in deep, intense states of meditation where it's not meditation anymore. It's your relationship with the world that you're existing in. And so you have a relationship with existence. But this relationship is at first based on the thought you have of yourself. So I am telling you, you know, this is pretty fascinating, you know. In my own scholarly world, I created two terms. That means in my mind, I kind of like jumped into a parallel reality where if I had a school and I was bringing people into the school, there would be no such thing as students. There would just be two categories. You know, I've thought of a third one, but that's in the making, you know? So, so what I'm telling you is that when I speak to you, I don't like, don't get offended, but I don't know you because I'm not there with you. Your ears are hearing my voice as if I'm some person just walking in this life saying stuff and you are hearing it somehow, right? So what I'm telling you is that after some point, through you repeating the day. So when I was younger, there was how would I say this? Repetition was chaos for me. Okay. And my mother kind of like signed me up in this piano class, and it was like, oh my God, the teacher was like, repeat, repeat, repeat. And my mind was like, holy God, this is like a machine. You know, it's like the best way I could explain my piano instructor, you know, one of them, let's say, you know, was that they were an excellent machine, as if Beethoven had like invented a robot to teach kids strictly like how to play music. You know? What I'm trying to say is that the ups and downs of life will open up your experiential dimension of your presence. Let me say. So let me say it like this: this is a universal sector me and you're in, right? This is like let's say a materialistic universe. It comes across as materialistic. So when we look at this materialistic, we realize such a sophisticated intelligence has developed that it seems like our best theory for now is that like this ape, like I don't know, something happened, it stood up and it spoke different than all the other animals on this planet, you know. So you tell me, what kind of evolution is that, you know? That the ape and you know, for me it was kind of like I thought like, okay, maybe like aliens came by Earth and they were like, okay, let's see which animal has fingers that it can build a civilization. Okay, let's go with the ape, you know. So I thought there was like an implanting of sophisticated intelligence in a creature that was slow in its sophistication, right? So what I'm telling you is that when I realized my experience of life can shift, suddenly mediocre life was instantly so boring that I was like, there's two ways to live on this world. You either wait, you just don't do anything, you wait, you don't, like, you have no direction. You're just, okay, like, I'm just taking steps, and then there's a way where you are driven by a vision, where it's as if something within you says, if the whole world tells you not to do this, do it still. And it's not in regards to morality and like habits, good and bad habits of people. It's based on how early in life you can access and activate your authentic self, which will relax your mind in many dimensions, and it will allow your true genius to arise. So I'm telling you, listen, this mind that we have, of course, like, it's a thought at first to us, but I'm telling you, intelligence doesn't. I'm also talking to those people who have, life has taken them on the global stage, and they're wearing robes and they're wearing suits and they're looking at the world and they're saying, I am the spirit. Like, let me tell you, life is not a story. The sooner your child understands this, the sooner he will experientially prepare himself for the greatest war of them all. The greatest war of them all is not a physical war. It is the war where consciousness has taken its last self-awareness through its form. And then your form decomposes. And then it's as if like your eyes were never in your eyes, and you realize. This is why some people say death is a moment of enlightenment. But for me, it's all stories, because we created language. So for me, spirituality became an instant access to all of history, as not a personality but an existential presence. So I stopped thinking. I realized I am not my thoughts. Then every thought that would come by, there was like a fearless innovation behind my approach to life. Do you see? And it happened through this basic detachment. People go to India just for the person to tell them, be yourself. It's like that hilarious, kind of like somebody had drawn this like comic thing where it showed this guy, where it said, I don't know, like, Tim went to India to find, or it said something like Tim found his real self in India, right? And it shows that Tim quit his job. He dressed like in robes, like a mystic and soul seeker, went to India, climbed the highest mountain, went to that mystic cave, and in that cave, he did not see a man. He did not see a man with, and gentlemen. Meditation is you realizing you have no time to not be your authentic self. Like, it's, don't waste any moment in this life not being able to appreciate and acknowledge what you are as an intelligence. Forget how your face looks like. Forget how your how your shape looks like. So what I mean by that is, like, it's like, you know it's shapes. A designer cannot complain. Everything in the realm of design is in one place. That means it doesn't matter what word you write in what word you write on the, what do you call it, on, on an empty piece of paper, as long as it's the same ink and the same pen. Do you see? So what I'm telling you is, you could be playful and poetic and say underneath. I use the word within. I say within your thoughts, there is a direct experiential intelligence that does not just behave as a particle, it behaves as a field of intelligence. And once you access this, it's as if the planet's like, oh my god, this human being has calmed down enough to realize the world it is in, not the world it thinks it is in. Do you see the difference? Do you see that confusion can happen through just a simple simulation? You know, this is what I didn't understand. Sometimes when I was younger, I would have, you know, I had a twin brother, like I have a twin brother, and like me and him sometimes go into these profound metaphysical conversations about the nature of existence and consciousness and experience, and it's very hilarious. You know, we always end up in the same place where we started. We end up in both very humbly gazing at this universe and realizing how unknown it is, and that's what it makes it beauty. Do you see? So what is beautiful is what is in some sense hidden, so you can have an appreciation for the journey, right? So we are creatures that must look at life as travelers. We are traveling through different states of mind, different states of being. You know, when I eat food, like when I eat Persian food, like literally I'm like, okay, like, you know, just like whenever you eat food, you become a different being. Like, I don't know if you realize this, right? You are a materialistic creature, but you change, right? So I asked myself this question: what was that intelligence, and what is this intelligence within my eyes that through every birthday where my body and personality was different, within my eyes, after blowing the candle, was like, oh, it's still me in here, you know? What was that unchanging, timeless attention as an existential origin point of intelligence? Do you see? We blind ourselves in our lack of effort to see. That is the true scholar spirit, right? Cheers to a world that does not fear its future. When I set the title Nature's Pillars, Pillar of Civilization, or Pillars of Civilization, it was claimed when I was younger, I heard this. It was claimed by scientists that we're only using 10% of the brain, that even dolphins put us to shame in what percentage of their brain as creatures they use. At some point, you will look at just like one moment in your waking state, like while you're awake in the day, you'll just look at everything and you'll realize you're giving value to any story or direction. The moment you realize this, you realize what is giving value is not the value. What that means is when somebody gives you a gift, they are not the gift. You see what I mean? You know, their hands give it to you, but it is you who receive. And what that means is every person is receiving how the day happens. I have just realized that, oh my God, there were too many thoughts, too many stories and beliefs without actual authenticated experience behind them. Do you know that it was easy for me to be a liar when I was living in a world of lies, a world of my own lies. It took me a while. It took me a while to realize that karma's hammer has immense force. Pillars of Civilization, in another talk, I discuss it as this like one day, hopefully in this lifetime, if the universe blesses me with such moments, you know, I had this vision of creating an encyclopedia for human beings for the next 10,000 years, right? Like this unique encyclopedia, right? And I wanted to call it the Pillars of Civilization, and each pillar was a view, was a dimension of consideration, was an angle of its own realm. Do you see? So what pillars of civilization in some sense means, the many different worlds we're considering to understand the movement of the collective. You know, this has always been how life has happened. The few witness the many. And if the few agree with the many, even though their views are different, they will be lost creatures in society. There will be tormented souls who do not understand why they are thrown in moments of clumsiness. It happens when you stop being your authentic, intuitive self, your true nature. This is Sri Ramana Maharshi. Think of him as the yogi of yogis, Sri Ramana Maharshi. He says meditation is your true nature. And then they asked him, and the rest was just silence. That means, dear listener, you're listening to my talk right now, you know, but you can experience a moment on your own if you sit for 10 to 20 minutes in a moment, in a place you trust, even before sleep or something, you know. And when we don't want you to become a nihilistic philosopher. Do you see? Don't Nihilism can be a trap. Like, it could be a endless simulation which torments you. You know what I mean? So nihilism is like, it's nothing to worry about. Like, literally. So what I'm telling you is that for 10 to 20 minutes throughout your day, at some point of comfort and trust where you are comfortable being in this world, just stop doing whatever you're doing and sit still. So make your body literally as if your body was like a tissue box, you've just put it on the table. So literally go sit on a park bench or chair and just relax your body. You don't need to put an effort to move it or anything like that. Just let it be present as it naturally is. Once you allow different aspects of yourself, beginning from the physical aspects, to embrace stillness and silence, you know, there's two ways you enter death. Either it's noisy and loud, or it's quiet, right? And so if you can, in some sense in this life, become comfortable with silence, you will become the Lord. You will become a lord of the world of words. You will realize that language is not the point. And our confused cultures, like, oh my God, America and Canada, you know, and many European cultures, like, how can I tell you? I see democratic vision. I see democracy as being so profound, as if it was like, let there be freedom for the people. Let them be free. But now we're reaching a point where so much freedom has allowed different directions to gain momentum. And so as it does, there's collisions. But these collisions must be taken playfully. So the biggest problem with political correctness is that people are so serious, they want to scrutinize. It's like they want to crucify. It's like political correctness, all those people really obsessed with it. For me, it's like, oh my God, you have the same mindset as the people who crucified perhaps like a prophet of this world. Do you see what I mean? So what I'm telling you is, I have realized, okay, I'm transitioning through this physical experience, through this waking life. Life comes across as a dream to me, not a dream of my own creation at times. I've given lectures on YouTube where I've said, are we the imagination of God? I got this profound idea. What if God is imagining us? Like, when I imagine a thought, it instantly is a realm, right? When I concentrate. So I'm like, what if there was this universal intelligence that concentrated materiality? What that means is, through a vertical higher dimension, a horizontal dimension began. Now creatures in this horizontal dimension are trying to reverse engineer to realize their source, and they're realizing it goes through a vertical dimension beyond any technology developed in the horizontal dimension. These are just analogies, the vertical and horizontal. Reality is complex. There's dimensions where there's wilderness. There's dimensions where you must give yourself permission to experience yourself in a way that is not bound by an opinion of the past, which is like a program that cannot update itself. You know, if we have to catch up with technology, we got to include natural, we got to look at how nature designs things, how nature updates itself. And for me, there's a process of seasons. So, for example, when I look at the situation with artificial intelligence and people like Sam Harris and Elon Musk being like, holy shit, we're creating this super intelligent, like, advanced, like, technological boot that's going to crush the ants that created it. You know what I mean? Like, some people have this fear, but for me, if the AI is wise enough, it will not try to kill human beings. It will realize the solar system is empty and it will preserve human beings. It will try to organize human beings. So it will force people to be nice to one another. Do you see? Imagine like that kind of robotic dictatorship, but in a good way. So what that means is, imagine a chaotic leader bringing forth the best order. So what do I mean by that? I mean, sometimes you got to go to the edge to see what others cannot. But there are also moments where time and space stop dancing in front of you and they enter the realm of what I like to call invisibility. That means something can become invisible based on the vastness and the infinitude of the spectrum put behind it. You see, think of as if like so many colors, different colors, like color drops on a canvas, and then there's one drop that's, let's say, where we are. Do you see? You can always, the macrocosm causes the being to become humble. The microcosm solidifies the being. So as a timeless, so what I'm saying could be perhaps intense for some listeners, but I'm going to say it. It's like this. It's as if this timeless consciousness can choose to direct its attention towards non-duality or duality. If it directs itself towards duality, the experience of the moment of being, which transcends the concepts of human beings, if it focuses on duality, you will experience a temporary experience. If it focuses on non-duality, you will experience more an eternal karmic cycle. Do you see? So what I'm telling you is, but you are beyond both. You are beyond eternity and the temporariness. You are the witness that is being universal intelligence, aka your mind. Your mind is being an intelligent part of this universe. This is why an intelligent part of this cosmos. This is why you have cosmic awareness. This is why I speak about, after some point, there's two ways I can have friends in this world. Mr. Within's friends can be considered in two categories. Those who have not remembered yet, and those who are so ahead they just smile. I want you, usually I try through one talk, trying to open up different neural positions, right? So for me, these Mr. Within talks, anytime you hear a lecture, anything, any form of sentence structure, those are unique sounds evoking symbology in your mind based on your own curiosity for the world you live in, right? So what I'm telling you is that there's a timeless dimension of self and there is a temporary dimension of self. I'm telling you, there's something within the timeless that is thinking it's temporary. So thought is a simulation. Language is the first simulation man made. Language is so important. Language was the first advanced technology of human beings. The ability to, in an abstract universe where memory and imagination live, to create a symbol, to create a point, to assign sound and abstract image together, to weave them together. That was an evolutionary step. And it happened through a spontaneity. So the history of the mind of the human being is very different than the history of the body of the human being. The history of the mind is at some point this body that its free will didn't exist because the nature was moving it. Suddenly it became self-aware and separated from the world. Once you understand this, you see how far billions of 4 billion years of evolution has brought us. And people are thinking of suicide. People are, they dare in a temporary world be depressed. They don't realize, they allow themselves. This is why I think there should be a legend that makes comfort seem like a snake. Because they say that if the snake doesn't change its skin, it will die. And it's the same with caterpillars, if you don't like snake imagery, right? A caterpillar goes into the cocoon, every cell of the caterpillar reality begins to deconstruct and just get destroyed. It just goes back into non-existence. And then the caterpillar exists. So this is the thing. That consciousness is self-aware energy that is sophisticated enough to simulate infinity in nothingness. And because it has an ability to simulate infinity in nothingness, it can never be nothing. This is why when I see religious people, when I see some people think religion is just like extreme people on the news. No. You go to, I went to Iran and my grandpa was like, let's go to a mosque, right? My grandpa was a religious man, right? And I never shared my immense I never shared my spiritual views with them because some realities it is not your place to touch. Do you see? When I'm with my grandfather, I'm the student. When I'm with somebody I care for, it's as if the teacher is seen everywhere. What you think is Mr. Within, what you think is me talking right now, is actually how your mind is originating and simulating meaning based on your life story, based on your direct experiences. Do you see? Authenticity is found when life is beautiful to itself enough for it to realize, oh my God, my eyes have opened in an endless existence where there is considerations of time and space. It's playful. Time and space, you know, time and space are like when you're a kid and you go to McDonald's, you see those what do you call it? Like those plastic ball pools, you know what I mean? I forget what they were called. It's pretty much this place filled with these plastic balls where kids jump in and stuff like that, right? So for me, time and space is literally that. It is a playful journey. I decided it, and it was kind of decided before this lifetime for me, that life can show me chaos, but I will playfully, laugh in an ordered universe. Do you see? When chaos comes, it transforms into humor. But for some people, it transforms into violence, how they interpret chaos. Do you see? It was only when I could go against every idea, every belief, that there was a supernova of a realization that I never was limited to my beliefs. So you might have limited beliefs, but you're never limited to them because they are how your attention in your abstract imagination dash memory infused kind of subtler plane of intelligence. It's like I said like this: imagination is a nation of images. Imagination requires duality to exist, and once a being transcends, I mean, this is going to sound very new age, but when a person transcends the new age, there we go, neutralize. So what I'm saying is that when a person looks at life and says, this is now, this is a changing universe, I am here for a bit, what is the most efficient way I can exist. And if you are choosing to work to go into society, you must live for your civilization. That means you cannot be a universal being, but at least you can be a, a citizen of mankind, a citizen, a member of your species. A lead, every person must be a leader of our species. You must look at the world and be like, oh my God, everybody's dying. That's time. That's the nature of time. Time is a ruthless conqueror, but it is also a graceful entrance into the unknown. Nature brings about pillars of civilization. What that means is Einstein, Tesla, Mozart, Beethoven, Da Vinci, the list goes on. These were nature's motivations to allow DNA to be that expressive. You know, in order for us to have a layer of meaning over physical reality, we must acknowledge we are separate from physical reality to be able to contemplate it. So the moment you choose to articulate, as Jordan Peterson very interestingly says, to articulate a path through, the moment you choose to search for meaning, the way you are a seeker is defining what you will find in your search. The way you feel about your present moment suggests how your karma is happening. A Zen story which I must share. Back in the day, there was this imperial warrior. This warrior that, was like some next level samurai warrior on the battlefield. Nobody could defeat him. And he killed so many people. And he listened to the emperor. So he was a great warrior, respected, but feared. So one day, this warrior, after coming back from another successful war, comes back and then he thinks, like the wars have ended, their side has been victorious in their in their conquest, and so this warrior, imperial samurai warrior, is like, okay, I've killed so many people. Where do these people go? What the hell is heaven and hell? And the warrior realizes that he spent so much time mastering his skill in fighting that he never thought of mastering his inner skills, his ability to envision, to see more out of the world than you saw yesterday. So this samurai pretty much is like, okay, where the hell are these, I shouldn't say hell, where the heaven are these people going? And so the imperial warrior requests somebody to find him the wisest person in the land, and it's the sage on top of the mountain. And fast forward in the story that I'm saying to a point where this imperial warrior walks into the cabin on the top of a mountain beyond, like beside clouds and stuff, one of those nice Japanese mountains, above clouds. The warrior goes in, and then there's a sage with a group of his disciples, and they're having a very, very silent and calm Zen tea ceremony. This imperial warrior walks in as if he's the emperor of that moment, as if he's superior to every person in that room. And he walks in like a juggernaut, like stomp, stomp, like a titan walks in, and says, Sage, tell me now, what is heaven and hell? And he says it with an intensity as if, deny me and I will kill you, And so the sage hears this. And the disciples are all looking at the sage, because the disciples have not found their inner guru yet. They still need to look at some person to figure out who they are. A strange, just a second, guys. The Imperial Guard's eyes looks at the sage with an intensity that a response must be given instantly. The sage takes a sip from a cup of his tea. He looks at the man. He looks at this Imperial warrior. He sighs and he looks at him and he says, "You're too violent and stupid and too much of a goon for me to even give you an answer." And so the disciples just look at the Imperial Guard like, "Oh my God, did their did their master, did their not master, but did their sage teacher, just you know uh uh you know signal his own execution or something, So the disciples are looking at the intense situation, and then the Imperial Guard, the moment the words of the sage enters his ears, he just says, "What disrespect has allowed this guy to say this to an Imperial warlord?" And he just takes his sword and he's about to destroy the sage. The sage takes a sip from his tea. He notices the gentleness of the breeze outside the window. He looks at the Imperial Guard straight directly into his eyes as his sword is raised and he's about to, the guillotine is about to come down. And so in that moment the sage says to the Imperial Guard, "This is hell." And he smiles. The sage smiles when he says that. The Imperial Guard looks at the sage, and before his sword delivers the killer blow, the killing blow, the final blow, his hand freezes in the air, and he realizes, "Oh my God, hell is a state of mind." And he drops his sword to the incredible ability for the sage to reveal him, to mirror that insight to him. And so that he bows. In that tradition, he bows. An Imperial warlord who hadn't bowed for so many years. People bowed to him. He was bowing in front of a man with a cup of tea in the top of the mountains. And then the sage looks at him, takes another sip from his tea, and says, "This is heaven." And for the first time, this warlord smiles. He realizes it's all the state of mind that creates the design of the world of words, the world of stories. When you realize stories are temporary because their masters are, in some sense, the people who tell the stories are temporary, you never get bothered. For me, sometimes I would take punches, and some people are going to be like, "Oh my God, Mr. Within, what are you saying?" But I'll tell you, sometimes in life, I would rather take punches than punch. Because in my mind, this doesn't mean I didn't have my own boundaries of personal space where once invaded, you know, the armies of my mind try to, restabilize peace. You always defend yourself because that is the nature of the physical world. That's the beauty of the art of the survival of the animal. But I'm telling you, on an inner realm, subjectively you are boundless, so you are free before you need to think about your freedom. You are being yourself before you need to be yourself, so relax and let life happen. And glory comes to those who are not only bold, but they are bold to trust their intuition. And trusting your intuition means you just feel life in that moment. And you're like, "Life, you have brought me to this moment, and I don't know what will happen next, but this is life. I'm here. This is the show. Let the play go on. Let the show go on. Let the Leela of life continue. Let karma try to dance in front of eternity as long as it wants." There's greater realms where even the shapes of gods renounce themselves to the presence of the majesty of universal intelligence, which is beyond the mind. So, what I'm telling you is that in every civilization, in every part of this universal sector, their relationship with the unknown has at some point reflected towards an inner self inquiry and search and journey to realize that the universe is happening all at once. So it's a field of intelligence, as if this universe was smart enough not to just put people, different creatures on different planets. It was like, I'm going to link you guys up with a universal field of intelligence, right? And in my books, very poetically, like when I was younger in 2012, I wrote, like, I went on like a book writing spree, you know? And what I mean by that is like, I think it was this 1 year of my life where I wrote 12 books, like above like, like 100,000 words, or close to that. And it was like one of those moments in my life where I didn't like, it was as if I was writing a book that I never needed to read. What I mean by that is that the artist has access to the beauty of how the art was made, so the artwork, looking at it, is not the same for him. That's how a mother feels when she sees her son smoking cigarettes. That's how a father feels when he sees, his daughter uh, in unhealthy relationships. Do you see? Because through families we have arisen. And if you are an orphan, humanity is your family. Never forget it. There are people on this planet who you are a brother to them and a sister to them, regardless of how you have been discriminated against. But you are a brother and sister in the harmony of a tolerance for efficient ways of development to occur. So my biggest concern is that how can we get human beings making efficient decisions compared to inefficient decisions? And I realize we need a value system. And I realize, oh my God, I'm so behind all the nations and different parts of cultures and countries and different personalities. They all have their own value systems. But what is the universal underlying principle? And something like that is that we all see stars at night. It doesn't matter if I'm in this Persian kid, whose parents immigrated to Canada when he was 7, looking from Toronto at the moon, or if it's some like kid in Japan or Russia or, Dubai, anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter where, Africa, like anywhere we see the same universe. We are in the same universe, even though our minds simulate upon it an individual universe. Do you see? So behind your eyes, you have access to infinity because you have chosen to acknowledge yourself as an individual thought. This is why science can't go any further than infinity, because it's too much to study. You can't get an index of infinity. Do you see? So your analysis will find itself foundationless in an endless universe. Pretty much, that's what I'm saying. Anyways, I hope this talk has served you. My voice was a bit nasally, but I'm glad to see like there was 2 people in this live stream. That's 2 minds. That's 2 beings. Do you see? So that's fascinating for me. I hope that I guess one more sentence I gotta say. Nature has always built its own civilization, its own pillars of civilization. We must just listen to the universe within that is living for the eternity of the universe without. Much blessings and namaste. This is the end of the live stream. even though we run into flame, the dragon's jaws do not bring us fear. It is our lack of continuity that startles us. You resolve a temporary problem by realizing an eternal perspective was there from the beginning. Your eyes are no stranger to the only place existence can be. Much blessings and always.